Part 88. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 873. In this kind of world, technology is underdeveloped, so as long as there are people, there is combat power. Lu Feng took these more than 70,000 people away without hesitation. At this moment, the number of people in Yingtian Mansion was reduced by about half. After several days of traveling, everyone finally arrived at the military camp. The first thing I did when I came back was actually not to adapt to the tactics I had thought of before, but to train so many new recruits. Among the more than 70,000 people, a large number have actually never learned martial arts, let alone fought on the front line. It just so happens that Wu Liang and Cheng Lian can be the chief coaches and let them lead the training of the troops, just like what happened to them. On the other side, Lu Feng found out that people had been arranged to go to Mongolia to inquire about information. After a period of time, the spies sent out came back to report that there had been movement on the Mongolian side. They had prepared a large number of cavalry and were preparing to immediately attack the city closest to the Song dynasty. In this case, the enemy is already about to attack, and there is no way Lu Feng will refuse to fight. The nearest city was 2 days away from the military camp, so Lu Feng immediately ordered Wu Liang and Cheng Lian to assemble their troops and set off. However, Lu Feng himself, Huang Zhong and Guan Yu came to the city in advance. The city has its own guard army, but it's just not that powerful. When Lu Feng and I were here, General Kui, who lived in the city and defended the city, immediately came out to greet him. I would like to welcome General Ping Chuan. I wonder why the general is here this time. Immediately put your people on alert throughout the city. According to reports from spies, the Mongolian army will attack here as soon as possible. Therefore, not only must we be on full alert, but we must also give priority to evacuating the residents here in advance. General Kui was shocked when he heard this. Yes, we Euro trademark LL handle it right away. As he spoke, General Kui asked his people to take action immediately. In just 2 hours, the whole city had already known about this matter. But the people were not worried at all, because they knowing that Lu Feng has arrived in the city and will defend the city in the future, I don't panic at all. Lu Feng's prestige is now very great. After learning the news, the passionate young people in the city, and even volunteered to join the army to defend their homeland. Although these passionate young people have never received formal training, they can still do some physical work, so keeping them is not necessarily a bad thing. After Lu Feng after the agreement, except for those passionate young people who are willing to stay and defend their homeland, other ordinary people must evacuate here first. It is just right to let these passionate young people settle down as their families, and arrange them here in the group in the direction of the Song dynasty in the next city, and then come back to continue to help. Since the Mongolian soldiers are coming to attack the city, guarding the city is the top priority. Although the spies came to report before, they already knew that they were preparing to attack, but the specific details will be from we still don't a Euro trademark T know which direction to go, so we must build defenses in the southeast, northwest, and 4 directions of the city. All the laborers in the city are mobilized, and they are divided into a total of troops. Each one is responsible for one side, which can just cover the city. All surrounded. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 874. Lu Feng observed the city and finally understood why the Mongolian Congress chose to attack here first. It was because there was no moat here. A city on the border does not have a moat. This is really not what it should be. General Kui immediately asked people to build the moat, and tried to build the moat within a day or 2 before the Mongolian soldiers came. After giving the order, General Kui immediately took action. Wait, there's one more thing. General, please give me your orders. How are the food reserves in the city? If we don't a Euro trademark T count the reinforcements that have not yet arrived, We can last for 7 days. But if you count it, it can only last 3 days. Immediately transfer food and grass from surrounding cities, including everyone, it will take at least 5 days. 5 days, only 5 days, Lu Feng will be able to wipe out all the attacking public groups. After receiving the order, General Kui immediately asked people to arrange this matter. In the next time, so we all just do 3 things. Some people came to strengthen the city wall and dig the moat, some people came to transport grain and grass to ensure sufficient food reserves, and the last part of the people came to train, which was the special training arranged by Lu Feng. These special trainings were actually just running, non-stop. To train the physical strength of these separated soldiers, they will need to make a great contribution when the Mongolian army comes. And Lu Feng has already said in advance that they will not be assigned to train physical strength or running speed. In fact, the most important thing is to avoid the pursuit and attack of the Mongols. If there is a battle, if they do not run fast during the battle, they are likely to lose their lives. With such an advance notice, they became even more diligent during training. They were all willing to sacrifice their lives for the country and were not afraid of dying on the battlefield, but if they could defeat Mongolia and still save their own lives, then why not do it? Therefore, when training, these people will put themselves in a dangerous situation to lose weight, as if there is a tiger chasing them behind them, and they will continue to exercise their running endurance and explosive power every day. They know that only by training hard and constantly like this can they gain a chance of survival on the battlefield. They will not resist the orders given by Lu Feng and accept them readily, so the only way to survive is to run. Wait until all the troops from the barracks arrive here. After building a city, Lu Feng felt relieved. Wu Liang, Cheng Lian, and General Kui, you 3 are responsible for closing the 3 city gates outside the main city gate. Leave the cities to me. Yes. After everyone said in unison, everyone performed their duties and returned to their posts. However, the moat has not been dug yet, so we must speed up the construction progress as soon as possible and try to complete it before Mongolia arrives. As long as there is without the moat, it is almost impossible for Mongolia to successfully attack the city. Don't forget, Lu Feng and others are still guarding here. If Mongolia wants to attack, it will overcome 2 major difficulties. One is the moat, and the other is Lu Feng. Facing such a powerful enemy as Mongolia, no one dares to take it lightly. You must know that the Song dynasty has never won against Mongolia. The Song soldiers suffered heavy losses, and who can achieve the word relaxation? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 875. According to reports from spies, the Mongolian army has now arrived, and it will take only 1 day at most to completely reach the city. The Mongolian soldiers will not wait here all the time. When they come here, they will definitely attack in a big way, and then there will really be no chance to rest. So after getting such information, Lu Feng immediately asked his people to see how the city's moat was being dug. When all the information came together, Lu Feng knew that the current moat was basically completed. In a few hours, the river would be introduced and the moat would be completed. After learning this information, Lu Feng immediately asked his people to speed up the construction period. Although it is not very standard to complete the moat in such a short period of time, it is still better than nothing. Even though it would be relatively easy for Mongolian soldiers to cross this moat, as long as this thing exists, it will slow them down a little. Suddenly at this speed, the video in the city could immediately attack them. Not long after, General Kui suddenly came over. General, the order you gave previously has been completed. I have prepared all the bows and arrows. Each hand position has at least 10,000 arrows. Very good, now go back to your original position, but don't forget to tell everyone that the Mongolian army is approaching soon. Tomorrow, as soon as tomorrow, the other side will launch an attack on us. Then we need you to hold on to the city wall. Yes. After General Kui left, Lu Feng immediately summoned the specially trained soldiers and asked them all to gather at the main city gate. When everyone was assembled, Lu Feng stood in front of them. Everyone, listen to me, stop training from now on. The Mongolian army will arrive as soon as tomorrow, which means your mission will start soon tomorrow. Give me a good rest today and be fully prepared for the battle. You have been specially selected and have undergone professional training. I hope that you can play your role on the battlefield tomorrow and truly make a contribution to our Song dynasty. And the most important thing is to survive. Keep the green hills and don't worry about running out of firewood. You are all the fastest runners, so it's best to ensure that you can survive. Only in this way can you continue to make great achievements on the battlefield and continue to use your remaining energy. Lu Feng's words excited everyone present, and everyone was very excited about it. Although there was still a trace of uneasiness and worry in their hearts, and some were afraid that they would actually lose their lives on the battlefield, however, with Lu Feng here, these worries in my heart will be alleviated a lot. Lu Feng has led the team to win many battles, so he has a prominent position in the hearts of the people. Even if it is not intentional, the people of the Song dynasty they have long regarded him as a god of war. With a god of war as the commander-in-chief of this battle, no matter how powerful the enemy is, everyone believes that the Song dynasty can win the final victory, and Lu Feng will definitely be able to go all the way. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 876. All the soldiers have entered a state of rest, not only the specially trained soldiers, but also the first people on the surrounding city walls. The only ones who continue to stick to their posts are those sentries who need to pay attention to the changes around them at all times. These sentries are not always on high load alert. They change shifts every 2 hours. This way, they can ensure sufficient rest time for a soldier, and they will not wait until they are really needed. This arrangement did not surprise General Kui. In the past, the sentries would change shifts twice a day, and there had never been such an intensive number of shifts. But ETA Euro trademark's right to think about it, now is not normal, now is an extraordinary time. Therefore, the current tight security is appropriate. That night, the night seemed very quiet, even to the point of being somewhat scary. Because everyone in the city knew that at dawn, the Mongolian army would approach, and they would really be fighting on the battlefield. Whether they would survive in the end was unknown. Lu Feng didn't sleep well that night because he was still a little worried. If it was a war, offensive warfare was something that he had already mastered with practice, and there was no need for any burden or psychological pressure at all. But the battle we will face tomorrow is a little different. This is a city defense battle. Lu Feng didn't fight many battles like this. He used to be the attacker, but tomorrow he will be the defender. The way he fights has changed, so there is still some instability. Lu Feng has racked his brains and thought of many ways for this battle. And for each different situation, the corresponding tactics will be different. The worst thing that could happen is that all the Mongolian soldiers passed through the moat and successfully entered the city. Although this possibility is not high, it is absolutely impossible for Lu Feng, who has always been strict, to ignore this possibility. He didn't sleep well the whole night. When a ray of sunlight shone down the next morning, Lu Feng suddenly heard the sound of horse hooves not far away. This is the cavalry of the Mongolian army. They're coming. Not only Lu Feng, but also all the videos in the city heard such sounds. I have to say that the cavalry of the Mongolian army is really loud and very distinctive. This is closely related to the fact that they are nomadic people. Nomads are naturally good at horseback riding and archery, and they have also developed a unique method. Therefore, compared with people in the Central Plains, Mongolians have very significant characteristics in riding horses. Such obvious features will make people remember them deeply and be easily recognized. Everyone obeyed the order and immediately entered a state of combat readiness. After Lu Feng gave the order, everyone in the city immediately entered a state of fighting. At the same time, the special personnel Lu Feng had prepared before were also ready to be dispatched at any time. According to the current direction of the Mongolian army, they mainly headed towards the main city wall, where Lu Feng happened to be waiting for the other party. The leader of the other party had also noticed that Lu Feng was on the side of the city wall where they were about to arrive. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 877. The person on the city wall must be General Ping Chuan. I didn't expect to meet you here. It seems that you are quite well informed, since you know that we are going to attack the city. From what they have seen so far, the other party can already tell that Lu Feng and others have been waiting here for a long time and have made all preparations. But even so, the other party still has no intention of retreating. The Mongols have always been very confident, especially in the grassland. They regard it as their natural battlefield, so they are fearless at all. Even if they want to attack the city, if you encounter Lu Feng, you will never be afraid to back down. I didn't expect that I would be recognized. It seems that I am not only famous in the Song dynasty, but also a celebrity in Mongolia. You are really confident in yourself. You are right. We Mongolians want to tear you into pieces now. Come down and die. If you want my head so much, why don't you come and get it yourself? I am standing here and will never back down. Come on, there will be such a battle sooner or later. After saying that, both sides immediately showed their might, and both felt that they were more powerful. The Mongolian soldiers began to rush over, but when they got closer and closer, they suddenly discovered something unknown. At that time, there was actually a moat on the side of Shenchi. There were no moats during the previous survey here, but I didn't expect that in just a few days, Lu Feng would have his people build the moat. Which is really surprising. The other side soldiers began to move up along the moat, and time was passing by every minute. When all the other side's cavalry surrounded the entire city, I found that the moat has really been built, and no one is open. Even the city gates in every direction have a moat in front of them. It can be said that there is no leakage. But because of this, the truth is that if people in the city want to go out, they must first cross this moat. After all, the time to repair the moat before was already very short. In such a short period of time, a moat can be built along the entire city. Is already very difficult. Under such circumstances, if you want to build a bridge, it is really impossible. In any case, even if there are some inconveniences, people inside the city wall can still get out if they want to. It's more difficult, but overall it's a good thing. With this moat, you can successfully block the opponent's cavalry. What the Mongols are best at is horseback archery. As long as the opponent's cavalry can be restrained, Lu Feng has 100% chance. He was sure that he could win this battle. The other general also felt a little headache for a while. He did not expect that Lu Feng himself could actually build the moat in such a short period of time. At least within the scope of his knowledge, this matter it was impossible to complete. Although he was a little helpless, he couldn't say anything. Seeing the other party's situation, Lu Feng mocked the other party without mercy. Didn't you say you want to get my head? Come here if you can. If you can't make it, then I'll help you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 878. Before the other party could react, Lu Feng immediately ordered out, had all the archers ready, and fired arrows directly at the enemy's cavalry. You never expected that the cavalry would be the main attacker. According to the current situation, with the existence of the moat, the cavalry is greatly restricted. At this time, the most powerful one is the infantry, and the opponent should target the infantry. But the reality was just the opposite. Lu Feng's approach made the other party a little confused and didn't know why he did it. But it is precisely because of this that the opponent's generals react as quickly as possible. The reason why Lu Feng was so anxious to attack the cavalry was because he was worried about what impact the cavalry would have if they continued to exist. In this case, then continue to think in this direction. But this thinking process is not that easy. Although Lu Feng was aiming at the opponent's cavalry in the following, giving priority to defeating the opponent's cavalry, the bow and arrow had no eyes, and it would only follow the originally planned path. As for whether it would actually hit someone, and who was among them, that's really not necessarily the case. So not only the cavalry, but also the Mongolian people began to dodge, no one wanted to be hit. The opponent's general was thinking while he was in Shandong. Although he was almost hit in the heart during the process, he was still lucky enough to avoid it. Not only that, he also figured out why Lu Feng chose to attack the cavalry first. Reason. The reason for doing this is actually nothing more than fear that the restrictions on cavalry may disappear in the coming time. Only when the restrictions on cavalry disappear will Lu Feng, the so-called god of war, be scared. And the current situation is very clear. The only way to restrict the cavalry is the moat, so the reason must be found in the moat. After the wave of bows and arrows on the city wall were released, the opponent came and finally found the opportunity and rushed to the moat. But the other party was still very smart. He tied a rope around his waist, and the other part of the rope was his horse. In this way, if you encounter something dangerous, you can immediately whistle to notify your horse and then pull yourself away. After finally arriving at the moat, we didn't have much time to stay here and observe. However, due to their familiarity with the grasslands and the fact that nomads are naturally more sensitive to ground conditions, they managed to find out the problem in just a little time. Although this moat has been successfully established, it is not as good as expected and there are certain quality problems. But it's right to think about it. The quality of the moat built in such a short period of time is definitely not as good as that carefully polished. From the very edge of the moat, it can be seen that the workmanship of this moat is relatively rough, and judging from the current degree of moisture, the maintenance work of the moat is not very good. That is to say, this moat is not actually completed, it is still a little bit far away. As long as it is certain that such a loophole exists, the enemy generals will definitely find a way to break through it as soon as possible. Sure enough, it didn't take long for what Lu Feng was worried about to happen. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 879. The other party discovered that the moat was imperfect. In fact, the current moat was not fully consolidated. The surrounding soil was still very loose. With a little force, the soil could collapse directly. In this way, the width of the moat will be increased, so that the loose soil can be used to continuously fill the moat. Although the surrounding terrain will change slightly during this entire process, if most of the moat is successfully filled in the end, the cavalry of the Mongolian army can directly cross here. So the other party immediately sent people over and started to do this at the risk of being shot to death by bows and arrows. After Lu Feng saw this, he immediately ordered all archers to aim around the moat. No matter who they were or what type of troops they were, as long as they saw anyone approaching the moat, they would all be killed. The archers changed their directions one after another, and everyone aimed at the moat. Whoosh! 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 After several shots and rounds of bows and arrows were fired, the number of soldiers sent by Mongolia to destroy the moat had indeed dropped significantly. But even so, the Mongolian soldiers still didn't feel any fear. Even though they had seen a large number of their companions die, they still rushed over to continue destroying the moat. Unexpectedly, the Mongolian soldiers were so unafraid of death. Even under such circumstances, they rushed over without hesitation. In this case, Lu Feng will never be merciful. More bows and arrows were ordered to be released, and several groups of Mongolian soldiers were shot dead directly. At this time, other Mongolian soldiers came up. It's just that their actions this time were a little different. The Mongolian soldiers who rushed over did not rush to destroy the moat after they came over. Instead, they first picked up the corpses of their own soldiers and blocked them in front of them. Come over slowly. Although this speed will be slightly slowed down, it can effectively suppress the bows and arrows fired from the city. After Lu Feng saw this scene, he immediately knew that something was wrong. If this continued, the moat built before would be completely useless, and Mongolian soldiers could step in directly. Send other soldiers immediately and rush out as originally planned. With an order, all the people inside the city wall took action. Cooperating with the archers on the city tower, everyone appeared around the moat. At this moment, the other side of the river was the Mongolian army, but inside Lu Feng's people. Both sides were staring at each other, and the Mongolian army also had the same archers. They began to attack, aiming at the people who had just rushed out. But Lu Feng was not a fool, and he would not let himself go like this. The people just went out to receive the opponent's attack, so everyone who came out held a shield in their hands to protect themselves. Both sides gradually approached the moat while constantly risking their lives. One of them wanted to destroy the moat. The moat is falling, and the other party wants to interfere with the other party. Under such circumstances, no matter who it is, it seems very difficult. But no matter how difficult it is, someone must do it. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 880. Lu Feng knew that if the moat was breached by the opponent, it would only be a matter of time before the city wall was breached. Lu Feng handed over the responsibility of guarding the city gate to an officer under his command, and then came to the east of the city. There are personnel who have been specially trained here. They rest here and accept orders anytime and anywhere. After Lu Feng arrived here, he said to them, now you will have your own mission. According to what I told you before, go out from the east of the city, try to attract the enemy's cavalry, and use all their forces to spread out. Yes. Everyone answered in unison. They all knew how important their mission was, so they would never neglect it. There is a tunnel on the east side of the city that can lead directly to the outside of the city gate, and the passage outside the city gate is directly the moat. After exiting the passage, jump directly into the moat to avoid exposing yourself to the enemy's sight as much as possible. Swim slowly through the moat, wait until you reach the direction of the enemy, and then slowly swim lure all the enemies over. In this way, you can successfully disperse all the enemy's forces. At the same time, the Mongolian soldiers also changed a little. In order to reduce casualties as much as possible, all the corpses of the soldiers were gathered together, so that a human wall could be created to completely block the attack of Lu Feng's archers. In this way, they would have a great chance of collapsing the moat. And the corpses of these soldiers not only have these functions. If there is a last resort, when the moat has not been completely collapsed, but only a little bit, the corpses of these soldiers can be thrown directly in to fill the moat full. This saves a lot of time. Although it is very likely that the body will be hit by a bow and arrow at the moment the body is thrown away, as long as it succeeds, the next cavalry can rush over directly through this breach. Overall it is still a good deal. After the professionally trained special soldiers set off, Lu Feng did not return to the main city gate, but followed these videos and actually entered the tunnel together. This matter was not notified in advance. No one, except the soldiers who followed him, knew where Lu Feng had gone. After everyone passed through the passage and arrived outside the city gate, they immediately jumped into the moat and slowly swam to the other side. At this time, the opponent's cavalry that was supposed to be here had already dispersed and all went towards the main city gate. It was precisely because of this that after Lu Feng saw the situation, he asked the specially trained soldiers to set off. Otherwise, he would have been discovered by the opponent when he had just left the tunnel before entering the river. The reason why Lu Feng came with these soldiers was because he wanted to deal with the opponent as soon as possible. It was originally expected that the opponent could be killed within 5 days. It will be solved, but judging from the current situation, it may not take 5 days, at most 2 or 3 days, and it will still be broken by the opponent. So if some actions are not taken at this time, it is very likely that it will really happen. Being dismantled by the other party. Lu Feng would never allow such a thing to happen. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 881. Lu Feng first asked the soldiers to cross the moat. After they went out first and successfully attracted the other party's attention, Lu Feng slowly returned to the ground. During the whole process, Lu Feng had been secretly observing the other party's actions underwater. After seeing the Mongolian soldiers being dispersed, Lu Feng went a little further away. The best thing to do is to take more walks and take a detour. As long as you can avoid being discovered by the other party, everything will be fine. Once he was within a safe distance, Lu Feng called Huang Zhong out directly. Huang Zhong, aim at the enemy general and show your archery skills. As he spoke, Huang Zhong had already raised his bow and arrow. However, because the safe distance is really far away, Huang Zhong still needs some time to aim, and the influence of wind speed on the grassland must also be considered, so he cannot do this. Anxious. The other party is a nomad, good at horseback riding and archery, but Lu Feng has a marksman here. As long as Huang Zhong is there, even if the other party is a Mongolian, so what? Lu Feng waited quietly beside him, and waited until Huang Zhong. After Zhong finally released the bow and arrow in his hand, he only heard a whooshing sound and hit the opponent's general directly, and it was in the center of his back. Well done, you just cooperate with Guan Yu here, he rides a horse, you shoot arrows, and interfere with the other side here, you don't need to worry about the rest. Your Majesty, please rest assured. Just leave it to us. After saying that, Lu Feng released Guan Yu and asked him to cooperate with Huang Zhong. In this way, he could continue to interfere with the opponent while ensuring safety. The opponent's general had been hit, and he originally thought he could die like this. Fell, but it may be because the distance was too far. Although he was hit in the center of the back, he still maintained a small life. After Lu Feng saw this situation, he immediately returned to the moat. But he did not. Instead of crossing the moat, he dived directly to the bottom of the river and followed the flow. When he got closer and closer to the opponent, he rushed out and snatched a bow and arrow from the opponent's cavalry before the opponent thought about it. Directly shot the opponent's general with a sword. In this way, the opponent's generals died. Capture the thief first, capture the king, this is the rule Lu Feng followed on the battlefield. But this time it didn't seem to be of much use. Even though the enemy general was wiped out, the Mongolian soldiers had no intention of retreating. The scene of killing the opponent's general just now was clearly seen by so many people, but they never thought of stopping. At this time, Lu Feng became the target of the enemy's attack. The archers on the city wall saw this and rushed to support. Lu Feng was already surrounded by the opponent at this moment, and the opponent was all cavalry, so he continued to run. There was no way they could outrun these people. At this moment, Huang Zhong and Guan Yu suddenly rushed over and took away Lu Feng, who was in danger, without hesitation. The three people were sitting on the same horse, and Huang Zhong also. He kept shooting arrows backwards, and Guan Yu's horse riding skills were top-notch, so the Mongolians after the sales couldn't catch up at all. Under such circumstances, they dare not say that they would counterattack the opponent. After all, the opponent's number there are really too many, but there is no problem in escaping from such a dangerous situation. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 882. After wandering outside the field for less than half an hour, Lu Feng finally successfully got rid of the opponent's pursuit. Guan Yu rode his horse and moved directly across the moat, and the three of them returned to the city. Not long after returning, Lu Feng directly ordered General Kui to launch a bombardment immediately. General Kui's men were all ready, and when Leader Shi gave the order, everyone took out the artillery carriages. However, the artillery cart at this time did not directly fire the cannon, but used the lever principle to place fireballs one after another on the launch pad, and then used the elastic force of the large spring to release these fireballs. In fact, this move is more dangerous. After all, everything outside the city is covered with prairie. If you want to use flames to attack, the surrounding prairie will most likely be burned up. But since this is a war, there is nothing we can do about it. As long as the final victory can be achieved, it is inevitable to use such means. Not only did this happen at the main city gate, but also at all costs in the four directions of east, west, north, and south. The Mongolian soldiers have begun to go crazy. They no longer care about attacking one place, and once again deploy all the cavalry. Who doesn't want to attack continuously from four directions, even if the casualties are heavy in the end, as long as there is a moat in one of the places? Success is destroyed, and for them, it's all worth it. When all the fireballs fell, a large number of Mongolian soldiers were wiped out. Only then did they finally feel a little scared. Maybe it was because the leader of his family had been killed that this situation started to happen. But this is finally good, at least for Lu Feng. As long as the opponent knows that he is afraid, then the opponent's attack pace will be slightly slower. At the same time, although the professionally trained soldiers sent out had some casualties, they still successfully completed their mission. After attracting the other party's attention, some of them successfully returned. Arrived inside the city. Seeing these soldiers who had made great contributions return to the city wall, Lu Feng was very excited. Originally, they thought that all the soldiers sent out would be wiped out, but they overfulfilled their mission, and some of them still managed to save their lives. In this case, for those soldiers who were unable to protect their lives in time, Lu Feng will definitely not disappoint their expectations and will definitely win this battlefield victory. Everyone gave me a hearing, and after placing all the fireballs, I rushed out and strangled the opponent directly. Lu Feng gave a death order this time. He will not give up until all the opponents are killed. All the videos in the city became particularly excited after hearing this order. In this war, they were relatively passive at the beginning. He was completely on the defensive, so everyone already felt very aggrieved. Now he finally had the opportunity to fight back against the Mongols, so how could he not be happy? The Mongols were so arrogant, and now they finally had the chance to fight back. It's time to give the opponent a heavy blow and let them see what a real strong man is and what a real battle is. With this belief, all four gates of the city were opened.